What's going on YouTube? For many people, when they think of luxury SUVs, they think of leather and wood. But there is an elite group of SUVs that have not only leather and wood galore, but also an extreme level of go-anywhere ability. Depending on where you live in the world, that may be the greatest luxury of all. So let's go ahead and square off the iconic Toyota Land Cruiser against the equally iconic G Wagon, and see who comes out on top. So let's start out with the exteriors. Now both of them have iconic shapes that won't be mistaken for anything else. But of course they don't look similar in any way. The G Wagon has an aggressively boxy shape that harkens back to its past as a military vehicle, and in the US it even comes standard with bull bars. While the Land Cruiser doesn't go quite that extreme, it does have a rugged look with a large and bold grille. Both models also have fully LED headlights, but the Mercedes does without fog lights. We'll save the various ground clearance and angle discussions for later in the off-road section. But continuing to the back design, again the G Wagon is the flashier of the two. Beyond that though, both of them have full-size spare tires in case of a flat, LED taillights, and hidden exhaust pipes, though the G Wagons are on the side. The only other style-related items to mention are the wheels, which are an inch larger on the G Wagon. I do want to point out that the Land Cruiser comes in only one fully loaded trim here in the US, so that means what you see is what you get. Obviously, that does mean that both have tons of safety systems, including pre-collision braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert with steering assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and auto high beam headlights. Next we have the warranties, which are completely different from each other. Toyota is going to cover the powertrain longer and include complimentary maintenance for 2 years. And finally, in regard to maximum towing, the Land Cruiser can handle 400 pounds more weight. But that pretty much wraps up the exteriors. So now let's see which cabin has the most luxurious experience before we compare them on and off-road. So walking up to the vehicles, both are obviously going to have nice key fobs and the ability to remote start via their respective apps. But oddly enough, the G Wagon actually does not have smart entry. However, the reason Mercedes doesn't include smart entry is to keep the old school bank vault doors, which are some of the nicest shutting in the entire auto industry. Now checking out the interiors, it's not quite the night and day difference you might be expecting when comparing a Toyota to a Mercedes. Both designs are pleasantly old school looking, and actually the brown leather in the Toyota is of a higher quality semi-aniline grade. As far as the seats themselves though, the G550 includes many more ways of adjustment and massaging, in addition to heating, ventilation, and 3-person memory that both of them have. Now checking out the overall material quality, the G Wagon is going to deliver some nicer touches as expected. While the Toyota, with real wood and leather, is nothing to brush aside, the G Wagon has generous use of real aluminum, carbon fiber, and buttons that feel incredibly solid. As far as the gauges, the G has a fully digital setup, which is a lot more customizable than the analog ones in the Toyota. Of course, it pretty much goes without saying that both have power adjusting and heated steering wheels. Now for interior storage, neither of them have as much as you would expect, but the Land Cruiser gets props for including a cool box. We also have different shifters, and when shifting into reverse, surprisingly, only the much less expensive Toyota has a 360-degree camera as equipped. And now that brings us to the audio systems. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Both are definitely pretty nice, but to my ears, the Mercedes has the edge. Alright, so now let's take a look at the displays themselves. Obviously, the Mercedes 12.3-inch display is significantly larger than the Land Cruiser's 9-inch one, but there is no touchscreen ability in the G. Additionally, Mercedes includes Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is something that Toyota does not. Finally, ending the front areas, both have regular sized moonroofs. Now checking out the rear seats, neither of these are exactly space champs. They prioritize capability over utility, meaning you're looking at 39.5 and 34.4 inches of legroom in the G and Land Cruiser respectively. However, headroom is very generous in both. Additionally, the Land Cruiser makes up for having less second row legroom by giving you a third row, which is missing entirely from the Mercedes. As far as the features, both have heated seats, but the Land Cruiser has 2 zones of climate back here, and the Mercedes has a charging USB port instead of just a 12-volt outlet. Next, heading around back, neither of these two have a traditional tailgate setup. On the Land Cruiser, it opens in 2 parts, and the G-Class opens to the side. But once inside, the Land Cruiser has a pretty significant 16% cargo capacity advantage. Alrighty, so that is it for the interiors. So now let's do the important part, taking them out for a spin. So starting out with the specs, the Toyota has a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8, and the G Wagon a 4 liter twin turbo V8. That means the Mercedes offers significantly more power, torque, and acceleration.
Oh my gosh, what? What? That doesn't even make sense. Like, this doesn't seem to obey the laws of physics. So, this is quite powerful. Wow. So good. Alright, so first taking off in the 2019 Land Cruiser. This is a really big SUV. It does feel big. It definitely feels big, but the power does feel adequate for something of this size. Now 380 horsepower, and a lot of vehicles would actually make it quite fast. This is not fast for sure, but like I said, it does feel adequate.
They have 8 and 9-speed transmissions on board, and as far as on-road handling is concerned, these trucks have a large, heavy feel in the way that they steer and in the way that the body responds to movement.
Now the shocks are, off-road soft, so you're going to feel that when you brake and accelerate. There is considerable nose dive as well as tail dive, but of course that is the trade-off you make for the capability. You have such crazy articulation when you're off-road at all the different wheels, and you'll get used to it. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, that is a 9-speed automatic transmission. Drag race this Tesla here and offset its carbon savings.
But now let's talk about when the pavement ends. Both of them are too big to go up a tight pass, but they can handle just about anything else you throw at them. The G Wagon exceeds the Land Cruiser in ground clearance, as well as the departure angle due to the location of the exhaust. That being said, the Toyota has the better approach angle, and both of them can ford water at a depth of 27.5 inches. Obviously, both have full-time four-wheel drive. However, the G Wagon has 3 locking differentials, which gives you a tremendous amount of control and capability. The Land Cruiser also has its own cool system though, called Turn Assist, that allows you to make tight turns by locking the inside wheel.
You know, I imagine most of the owners are never going to take this off-roading, but it does have that capability if you ever do want to use it. This is honestly probably the most capable vehicle in the world. I would probably give it that distinction. That and the Land Cruiser are up there for some of the most capable vehicles money can buy.
And finally, fuel economy is equally bad. Now this comparison was not really about price, but instead about ultimate capability. That being said though, I will still mention the price difference, which is very, very large. The Land Cruiser comes in only one variation in the US, so its price is going to be $86,682 after destination. The G Wagon can be spec'd into the $200,000 range, but the lightly optioned version that we used for this test was still $140,285. Well guys, that is where we are going to finish up this comparison video. As you can probably tell, these two SUVs are absolute powerhouses. But if you have the money, you really can't go wrong with either. Anyways, thanks for joining us for a kind of interesting twist on the typical car confections comparison. And be sure to subscribe for more comparisons as well as our signature full review videos. Take care and stay safe.